Ah, the 70s. It was a decade of muscle cars, bell-bottoms, rock and roll, and yes, even a little bit of disco. Back then, people did things that are now frowned upon. Sure, it was a little dangerous, but it certainly was a lot of fun. In today's video, we'll take a look back at some of the things done in the 70s that are no longer acceptable. The 1970s was a time when things were different, and I'm not just talking about fashion. There were things that we did, and yet here we are. For example, kids would play outside all day. If there was dirt on our hands or faces and we had somewhere important to go, then no problem. We didn't use antibacterial wipes or hand sanitizer. We had something better. Mom spit in a handkerchief, and that was pretty much like 409. It could remove anything. And speaking of being outside, as kids we rode bikes without helmets, bike paths, or adult supervision. There weren't any elbow pads or knee pads either. We just ended up with scarred elbows and knees. It sure was fun though. Those scabs and scars were like trophies with great stories to tell about what happened. But kids back then were adventurous. When a kid got seriously injured, people generally felt sorry for the parents. They didn't blame them for letting them climb the trees. Safety standards of today weren't anywhere to be seen back then. There were trampolines, but they didn't have safety nets around them. We actually loved the challenge of danger. Remember squirting down the trampoline with water and adding a little bit of Palmolive dish soap to make it extra slippery? That just meant extra laughs when your friend slid off of the trampoline onto the ground. Heck, even going to camp back then was completely different. Your parents didn't have to fill out 20 forms of paper wanting complete medical history, including all of your allergies, insurance, and waivers in case you got hurt. School was also much different back in the 70s. For the most part, we went to the closest school and not necessarily the best one. If we rode the bus and we acted up, the bus driver would yell at you. The kid actually got in trouble, not the bus driver. We took our lunches to school in metal lunch pails, and inside could be leftover chicken, bologna, or even tuna. Back then, there were no fridges in the classrooms, and there certainly weren't any of those ice blocks to put in your lunch pail. Yet for some reason, we didn't get food poisoning. If you had a teacher that was angry all the time, then you just dealt with it. You didn't transfer out of class. You just hoped and prayed that you would have a better one next year. When a teacher gave you swats, you certainly didn't run home and tell your parents because we were all afraid that we would get it again. For the most part, kids just avoided getting in trouble in the first place. Our parents rarely knew our teacher's name, much less how qualified they were. When it came time for the parent-teacher conference, kids got nervous and scared, not the teachers. If you got a bad grade on a test, then you got a talking to and not a cuddle. Back then, if a kid received an award for being Student of the Week, then it meant that they actually did something great instead of just showing up for school. In the 70s, what happened on the playground stayed on the playground. It could be rough, but it could certainly be fun. When you did get injured, a teacher could put mercurochrome on a scraped knee without obtaining parents' permission or completing an incident report. School field trips were much easier. There was no such thing as a kid-to-parent volunteer ratio. You were just happy to get out of class and you didn't want to do anything to ruin the next trip. School breaks were always welcomed, and it wasn't about art class or summer camps. But we did try to blow off steam by getting into some sort of sport on Saturdays. Making the team was always a big deal, and it wasn't always guaranteed. If you didn't make it, then you had to try harder next time or pick a different sport. When you won the big game, you could tell tall tales about how it was done. If you had a great season and you came out on top, then you got a trophy. There were also trophies for second and third place, but not 20th. Not every kid was going to get one, and it was perfectly fine. Family vacations came before kids' sporting schedules, and that's something that seems to be disappearing from today's time. Birthday parties were fun back in the 70s, and they certainly weren't like today's parties with celery and face painting. We had hot dogs, burgers, soda, and of course cake, but there were also other things to challenge you with an element of danger. Remember having your hands tied behind your back, being blindfolded, and trying to eat a donut on a string before others could? Sometimes this was even done while you were being held upside down. Sharp things were just part of the fun at parties in the 1970s. We played pin the tail on a donkey with a sharp tack after being spun in a circle and were completely dizzy. And how about lawn darts? We all played the game and we didn't think about it being dangerous. And as a 10-year-old boy, it was perfectly fine to receive a pocket knife as a present. A gift like that could come in really handy and could last a lifetime. We also didn't worry about germs at parties. Nobody wrote their names on cups and we all shared them at some point. We probably even offered our friend a bite of our own hot dog. If somehow we got injured and spilled blood, then there was a good chance that we were going to become blood brothers. This, of course, was long before the AIDS scare of the 1980s. Weekends were a lot of fun. Saturday mornings were your TV time. Just you, some cartoons, and your favorite sugary cereal. The rest of the day belonged to Dad so he could watch sports, a movie, or even the news later that evening. So now that TV time was over, it was off to your friend's house to ring the doorbell and ask if they could come out to play. Back then, it was always easy to tell where all the kids were in the neighborhood because of all the bicycles out front. For the most part, kids could do whatever they wanted as long as they stayed out of their parents' hair. The weekend was really all about your parents' social lives. It was a perfect time for a sleepover at a friend's house. Then the next weekend, it would be your turn to have your friend over. Dinner was an important time for the family to sit down together at the table and discuss the day or current events. As soon as it was over, it was time to take out the trash and do the dishes. That was every bit as important as doing your homework. Being tired was no excuse to be rude either. Everyone was tired. Going to the grocery store was an experience. Kids rode in grocery carts without seat belts or padded liners. Heck, it was even fun to just have groceries piled up on top of you. It was also fun to ride on the end of the cart as your parents pushed it. The cereal aisle was super colorful and they had some really cool toys and prizes inside. Back then, grocery stores had only one kind of milk. If you wanted skim milk, then you could just be a little weirdo by drinking half a glass or adding ice to it. We certainly didn't have 30 kinds of rice, almond, and soy milk. The choice was easy: milk or no milk. Every grocery store had a good butcher that you got to know well. Most meat packages didn't have a sell-by or use-by date. We depended on our noses and visual inspection to see if it was still okay to use. One thing you absolutely didn't see were kids on iPads or doing the latest TikTok dances. Kids just had to enjoy the experience. This was also true on long trips in the car. No iPads, snacks, or juice boxes needed. You just found ways to entertain yourself. Maybe you played car bingo, or maybe you pulled out the elastic out of your sock and then popped your little sister or brother. Oh, look out! They're crying! Here comes Dad's arm! Don't make him stop the car. No matter what, kids always found something to do. If you didn't, then your parents would. Never ever say that you were bored. That meant extra chores. Back then, kids would grab scrap pieces of lumber and materials and then build their own clubhouse. None of them ever came from Amazon or big box stores. Every year, kids would look through Christmas catalogs and dream about what they wanted. It was always fun to circle everything you liked. Kids didn't get everything that they wanted. If you got one item from your wish list, then you had a really good result. There are literally thousands of things that kids used to do in the 70s but are no longer being done now. Most of those things are either illegal or frowned upon. Was it better or worse? I'm not quite sure, and I'll let you be the judge of that, but I'm really grateful that I got to experience the 70s firsthand. Can you think of anything that we missed, or maybe you just want to share some special memories of things you used to do? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching.